Jaya, how's the week been and how do you feel, I guess, prepared to bounce back tomorrow?
Yeah, it's been a challenging week. Yeah, whenever you dish up a performance like that, yeah, there's a bit of soul searching, clearly. I've been really proud of the way everyone in the footy clubs owned their part in it. We've learnt the lessons, hopefully, and moved on. I feel like we've had a really good week of prep leading into what's an important game.
Did you change anything in the preparation this week?
No, not this week. Feel like we've bounced back from those performances okay, and that necessarily hasn't been the issue leading into our home games. So, like I said, I stuck to a pretty solid routine. Players have been really invested in this week, and I think you'll see a better performance tomorrow night.
Have you spoken to the group about not just having one better performance though, and not needing a sugar hit and needing a series of better performances?
No, not yet. We're focusing on this game. Putting all our efforts into this game, making sure we have a really good week. Yeah, and we want to put in a performance that we can be proud of.
Does Collingwood resting some players alleviate some pressure or make it more pressure?
No. We just play the team we're playing. Part of our preparation clearly is about Collingwood and who they pick in their team, and matchups and how they play. But a fair bit of it's about how we want to be perceived as a team, and our brand as well. So we want to make sure that we get a balance with how much we focus on the opposition and how much we focus on us, and feel like no matter who who they're going to pick, we've got that balance.
Can you use that as a bit of fuel though for your guys, sort of make them pay for coming over with not their sort of best 22, 23?
I haven't used that as any motivation this week.
How have you made of the fact that players like Swan and stuff are going in the public record and back to you this week? Is that one of those things that gives you great confidence and make you feel good, or is it a little bit frustrating that they have to do that out in the public?
Oh, yeah, it's frustrating that they have to do it, of course, but I'd rather not be in this situation. But I'm glad they have. I feel everyone's support inside the four walls. What happens probably externally is the coach gets blamed for every poor performance, but realistically what happens internally is everyone takes their ownership in their part of those performances. And I think as a playing group, as a coaching group, assistant coaches, me, we've taken, we've spread the burden of blame across the whole footy department for that performance on the weekend and owned our part. And realistically, that's the only way you get better. Like, if you think it's all someone else's fault, you don't take ownership personally and yourself, well then you don't get better and learn from those performances. So I think we've done that right early in the week. But yeah, for the last few days, our focus has been on Collingwood and the game coming up.
You said on Friday though that if you don't look internally at your own performances, then you're not doing your job. What did you look at internally this week and think, I need to do better?
I'm not going to go into those details, but or maybe some of the way I set the week up, had a too big a focus on outcomes possibly. And you look at all those top things, and this is the thing, like when you put a performance out, you'd love to say it was one thing and this is what we got wrong, we didn't train at this time and didn't do this drill and I didn't put enough effort on this part of the game plan. But realistically it's a number of different things that lead to a performance like that, and you're sort of trying to pick out patterns rather than events.
Justin, you spoke about how externally a lot of the blame gets laid at your feet for the performance. How have you sort of handled the commentary that's been around your job at the moment these last few days?
I don't sit there and read external commentary. What I've done this week is tried to prepare the players the best I can for upcoming performance, irrelevant of what's going on externally. I've asked the players not to read into that. And really, realistically, that's where we've got to get to as a footy club. Just focusing on the next game, leaning in on our processes, whether we come off a win or a loss. That'll help us become a more consistent team. So after a performance on the weekend, we don't need to batten down the hatches. After a good performance against Adelaide, we don't need to go over the top and celebrate too much. We just need to make sure we lean in on our processes week in, week out, and that's what I've done this week. The difference this week is, I guess, I've had 20 or 30 text messages checking in to make sure I'm going all right, which I really appreciate. But yeah, I don't sit around reading external noise.
Simon said before the game that he absolutely guarantee you'll coach round one next year, and then obviously the performance on Friday night was disappointing. Have you spoken with him at all about his comment?
Yeah, I've had great chats with Garlick this week. But I had great chats with Garlick last week. me, Joe, Garlick spend a lot of time together talking about what we're doing at the moment, direction of the footy club. That hasn't changed this week. I know, with the external noise going on, I know everyone would like me to sit here and say that we've had crisis talks and this and that and meeting after meeting, but to be honest, it's been a really consistent week.
Who are you looking at to step up in that midfield? Obviously, no Hayden Young this week.
A lot of players. A lot of talks been about Caleb and Andy. They need to play their roles, and we need to make sure we support them as best we can. Realistically, like last week and the week before, we'll have 5 or 6 guys that spend time through the midfield. They all need to play their part. It's obviously a really important part of the game, and we need to get that right. But it's not on 1 or 2 people; it's on making sure that the collective have an impact.
And the synergy between Luke and Sean, do they just need to take a bit of time to build into that?
Yeah, it'd be nice. It'd be nice. Just calm down a little bit. Build into it. It's their first game of the year in what was a pretty average performance, I know. But let's just see how it unfolds after hopefully a month of them playing together.
So they'll both play tomorrow night?
Yep.
You showed the captain's run. Are you making any major selection statements this week?
No. No, it's not going to wield the axe. We're, like I said, we've had a calm week internally. We've learnt from the Friday night. We want to put out a more consistent effort, but we can't get caught up in wielding the axe after a poor performance and everything being great after Adelaide game. We just need to calm down a little bit, and we need to make sure internally we're really consistent with our behaviours, really consistent with the way we approach things, and that in turn will help us become more consistent on the field.
Does Neil Arasmus come into calculations over that Hayden Young?
Yep.
How have you viewed his form?
The team will come out later.
How have you viewed his form though, I suppose, in the waffle?
Yeah, well, he's working on some areas we need him to work on. It's tough when he goes back to waffle because the opposition put a lot of time and effort into him, and he gets a hard tag, and it's different because he's not going to get that at AFL level. He's going to come in and be able to play with a bit more freedom, but fundamentally the things we've asked him to work on is working his backside off like he always does to try and work on those things.
You've got 3 tall defenders, obviously. I know Draper can play a bit of small as well, but Collingwood's forward line's not a traditional 2 tall forwards and a bunch of crummers and maybe a resting midfielder. Do you have to look at that matchup size-wise?
Yep. Yep.
So there might be a chance that one of those tall defenders come out?
It might be. Yeah, it might be. We've got confidence that Drapes can play tall and small, but we'll need to look at that.
What are other strengths of Collingwood you have to take away? Or you see that maybe changes, but that midfield is still very dangerous.
Midfield is very dangerous. Just mentioned their forward line is very dangerous. They've got mature players all over the ground, really mature players all over the ground that offer a lot of stability and leadership. They play to a system where they can just pull players out and plug them into certain roles. Feel like they're a really role-driven team. All their players are really clear on their roles, and that helps them defend the ground really well and helps them expose opposition. So, irrelevant of the personnel they put out, I imagine they'll play exactly the same way they've been playing, and we're going to have to work really hard to stop some of their strengths.
Do you consider a tag for Nick Daytos?
Consider it, he got tagged last week and still had 30 plus. I think he's been tagged earlier in the season. He's had 30 plus, so probably be more of a team effort.
A little lighter one. There was a report last night the AFL are considering WA versus Victoria State of Origin early next year. What do you make of that idea? Is that something you support?
Geez, I've had a bit on my plate this week. I haven't really given it much thought. It depends if the players are into it and it fits into the time of the year. I think it can work. Finding that window where it fits is going to be the tricky part, and if it's in the pre-season, I think it could be a decent precursor to the season opener.
Craig McRae yesterday said that he was showing the players clips of your post-match presser and clips of your training as well. Was that, I don't know if you heard that, was that sort of surprising to you?
No, it's surprising that people think it's surprising. We would have done that most weeks this year, where we show a clip of the opposition, and their coach talking about certain things that are going well or aren't going well, and it's just it's a precursor to showing the actual edits, I guess. It's interesting, what gets made in a week like this. I think those training drills we've been doing for probably 6 weeks now. We've been doing them for that long that the players are actually probably getting bored of them, so we need to change them up. So it is what it is.